Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning. My name's Molly. I'm the event coordinator here from Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce, and we are joined today by Tracy-Anne Barker from TA Barker Associates. We will be discussing how to become the employer of choice today. So really interactive, informative session. And there'll be quite a few questions as well. We'd like to really involve you guys in the conversation this morning. So there'll be a few questions where we use the chat function to sort of see how you guys are thinking. And then we'll have like a few slides, sort of reflect on those questions and then sort of come back to you guys and see how that's kind of developed and been incorporated into what Tracy is talking us through today. So obviously please feel free to get involved in the conversation. If you're brave enough to unmute as well, please feel free. It would be great to hear some of your opinions, some of what you're thinking, what you've experienced, and really sort of bring everyone together into the conversation this morning. A couple of housekeeping rules. As you may have heard, we are recording this morning, so feel free to take notes, but we will be sending the link around as well to watch back later. Keep yourselves on mute for us, obviously until or unless we get to the part where we say we can unmute and sort of join in the conversations. And any questions, just pop them in the chat and I'll make sure to help Tracy out and field them to her for you. I think that is everything. I shall now hand you over to Tracy.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Molly. Appreciate the quick introductions. I'm just going to go over to screen share. I've got a few slides, as Molly says. It's great to be here with you all this morning. So thank you very much to both Molly, Kaz and the team really for asking me to come and talk about this subject. And it's definitely a subject that's on the top of most of our agendas at the moment, with particularly recruitment of our homegrown talent or new talent being really top of the list as people have started to open up, furloughs starting to come to an end, but also as we're looking at our businesses for growth, for stability as we go forward within our different sectors. So as I say, thank you to the Chamber for asking us to talk on this subject today. So I'm Tracy-Anne Barker. Why am I qualified to talk to you today, to share my information, to share my thoughts? Well, I set up my boutique training and coaching business 3 years ago now. And in those last 3 years, I've trained and coached hundreds of managers, business owners, CEOs, supervisors and team leaders, really helping them maximise performance. And that's a big part of what I do in terms of their teams and their productivity within their business. Before that, I was in the corporate world for about 30 years, training literally thousands of people. And I know what works. And boy, I know how to get it wrong as well. I've got it wrong in the past. So I've definitely got a lot of experience in putting it right, getting it right, and definitely know those hints, tips and tricks to apply. Really, my focus is maximising performance, but what we're going to think about today is how, as employers, we can become that employer of choice to help us get the right people into our businesses at the right time, and then really help that performance help our business accelerate. So just want to share a few personal things with you. I liken the subject of building a successful team to my love and passion. It's my second love and passion after my family and husband, of course, but it's rugby. So those of you that are sort of keen rugby fans or know rugby players, you'll know that rugby is all about lots of different positions, lots of different abilities, shapes and sizes on the pitch. And building a successful team in our businesses is just like that. We need variety, we need individuality, but ultimately all working for that one collective common goal and objective. And that is to have a sustainable business and make more money so we can operate as businesses. And I'm pretty certain I'm talking to a converted here today. So a quick question really for the chat box for Molly to field for us, pardon the pun. Have we got any rugby or team sports fans on the session today? It'd be lovely to find out if there are. I won't mention football or rugby too much, I promise, during the rest of the session, but it would be great to find out if there's a few of you on the session. So a bit of a disclaimer, I just want to show you this disclaimer. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong disclaimer. That's my pooch. He always tries to muscle in on the session. That's Ozzy the cockapoo. He is in the room with me today. So apologies if we get the odd bark or two. He'll only be showing off and wanting to come and join you all. But the real disclaimer is I'm not going to make you an expert in building a successful team in less than an hour, let's be fair. But what I really want to do today is share some practical hints and tips and ideas that you can go away and implement within your business. I'm not going to talk today about what to pay your staff or what non-monetary incentives that you need to apply. Hopefully you've got most of that sorted out. And certainly I know we've got some HR colleagues on the call today, people that deal with sort of HR within their businesses. You'll know that that's something to set and to have in place. And certainly speak to Kaz and Kelly in relation to the services, the HR services that we operate within the chamber. So speak to them if you need some additional HR services. But really what I'm going to do is give you those practical hints and tips today. So Molly, have we got some rugby fans, or we got some sports fans on the session today?
No one's come forward just yet. So I think people are being either shy or not too much of a sports fan, or maybe football's out at the moment.
yeah. Maybe I've pulled the rugby card just a little bit too early, but no problem.
Yeah,
Mark,
I would say I'd qualify for that. So team sports, and I'm more football than rugby, but I do like rugby too.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate that, definitely. So as Molly says, during the session today, I'm going to pose some questions just really to get some interaction. Really just want to hear from you all and sort of hear your input as we go through. So we'll have a bit of a Q&A at the end, but spend about sort of 35 minutes now talking about the main subjects. So those of you that read the bio on the booking link for today would have seen these two figures, 27 and a half 27 and a half days and £3,000. This is definitely a question for you in the chat. What do you think that relates to? What do you think those two figures relate to? Just give you a few moments. Pop your thoughts in the chat, please. And we'll come back to that in a short while. So pop your thoughts in the chat for us, please. So I'd like to share a survey that was conducted pre-March 2020. I won't mention the C word or the P word too much, but this survey, particularly about the subject that we're discussing today, is really important and interesting, and hopefully you'll find some of this information interesting. So it concluded just before the pandemic, early 2020, and it surveyed around the world thousands of millennials and Generation Z. Millennials are those that are born between 81 and 1996, and Generation Z, or Gen Z as it likes to be abbreviated to, is those born between 97 and 2015. And when we look at that data, what's really notable is, particularly for millennials, 1 in 5 were out of work or had significant changes in May 2020. Now, that's definitely no surprise of what we all went through, and certainly the experience that our businesses had. But that impact was quite significant to that particular generation, that particular group of potential employees and actual employees. What we know, as with all of our businesses, the impact of the pandemic, it's too early to judge right now. We know what we've been through, we know what we're going through, but actually what the future looks like, it's a little bit early to judge. But it's also too early to judge with these two groups. But interestingly, what it does reveal is the impact to these two, the resilience and the determination of these two groups is definitely going to shape our world as we go forward. And clearly what's been emerging with changes over the last few months and what's due to come, the resilience and determination of these two age groups, particularly in relation to our businesses, is really important to understand. From our perspective as business owners and managers in businesses, it's really interesting to note that the strong beliefs and values that these two generations had pre-pandemic actually remain committed now, if not somewhat much stronger. So they want to drive positive change around the world. They want to drive positive change in their communities. And as employers, this is where we can really harness some of that information, but also harness our ability to be an employer of choice if we understand what these two generations need. I'm not suggesting we forget the other generations, the ones that come before the millennials, at all. But what I'm suggesting is that if we know some of this information, it will help us, plan for our workforce of the future, definitely. So Molly, just going back to that 27.5 days and 3K, what do people think it relates to?
So we've got Mark and Donna saying think that it's money due to sick days, money lost due to sick days. And Dale says compulsory holiday or average wage.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. What it actually relates to, £3,000 is how much money you lose or how much it costs you when a member of staff leaves your business. So that's before any agency fees. If you use an agency to recruit your team, absolutely, that's the minimum that it costs your business in terms of time, hours, new adverts and things that you'll be placing for recruiting new people. So when that person leaves your business, it might be an exit from your business that you're happy with, but if it's not, if it's somebody that you would have rather retained in your business, that £3,000 when they leave is literally walking out the door. But interestingly, it takes on average 27.5 days extra time for the manager or the business owner to recruit that replacement. So that's extra wasted time in terms of your job role that occurs when that member of staff leaves and you need to recruit somebody else. So that can be quite significant to your business. And if you haven't factored those things into your budgets, or you haven't factored those things into your operation, that can be quite a big impact. So just something I really wanted to share with you, because it's not something that seems obvious in our businesses. We just think, oh, we'll hire another person. But it's going to take you best part of a month to recruit that person in extra time and effort above and beyond your day job. So let's have a look at something that I don't think will be a particular surprise to any of you actually, but good staff retention. So retaining staff and good motivation ultimately leads to good profitability for your business. CIPD, which is the professional body, membership body that HR professionals, sort of business partners, HR directors, HR managers are generally a member of. They issued a report quite recently to state that 50% of staff are willing to work even harder. That's really interesting from a productivity perspective. Staff are prepared to go that extra mile for the business. So we know as businesses that there's a bit more capacity within our organisation. However, if we look on the flip side of that, because of everything that's gone on in the last sort of 15 to 18 months, 20% of staff are quite exhausted, 20% of staff are under pressure. So for us as organisations, we know those two pots of 20% actually are potentially at risk of people leaving our business. So if we think about the 27.5 days and the £3,000, actually, one in five in our business could potentially be costing us £3,000 if they walk out the door in 27.5 days. So it's really important that we get that balance right and we support our team, because otherwise we are going to lose, staff, we are going to lose people within our business. So if we think about an organisation that perhaps has got 20 staff, there's potential that 4 of those staff would leave the business. So that's 4 lots of £3,000, so £12,000, and 4 lots of 27.5 days. So actually somebody in your business who's got the responsibility for recruiting the new team members actually could waste 4 months of the year recruiting new staff. So that's why staff retention and good staff retention is really, really important. I'm not going to talk today necessarily about, keeping the poor performing members of staff, really focusing on how we keep those people that are our shining stars, those people that are rising through the ranks of the organisation and keeping them on board, definitely. So, team engagement. Would like to talk to you about team engagement. Motivating and engaging staff is really crucial to maximising performance and productivity. And I cover this on some of my training programs. But what I want to say to you today about motivation is it's really important as early in your journey with a member of staff as possible that you really understand what motivates them. So it might be that salary is part of a motivator or non-monetary incentives. That's where I say I'm not going to cover those things today and tell you what to pay people, but actually it's really important through that recruitment phase and through that induction phase and that new starter phase when they start to work with your organisation, you understand what is their reason for getting up. And most people from an academic perspective, when we look at motivation, most people want to pay their bills and have a roof over their head and to be safe and have a safe environment. Those are the real base needs of a member of your team. However, beyond that, what really pips their interest? Is it that they get on really well with their colleagues? They've got a great relationship with their colleagues. They've got a great relationship with their manager or the business owners, if it's a smaller business and they've got access to the business owners. Is it that they do a good job? Is it that they have play a meaningful role in your organization? All of those things are key motivating factors, and it's really important that we understand what those are for each of those individuals, because that will help you with this subject of team engagement. So if they like praise, a really simple and cost-effective way to do that is to create handwritten letters or little cards, say thank you when they've done a really good job. That will really engage those in your team that really like that feedback and that sort of thank you and that praise type of response. Positive company culture. This is a big one. Dealing with any conflict in the team early, not letting it fester. Not many of us are willing to deal with conflict early. It can be quite challenging. Let's face it. You have to be a certain type of person to be willing to hit it head on. But even in those cases, actually hitting conflict as soon as it happens might not necessarily be the right thing to do. You often have to step back, take a breath, take a view before you then deal with it. But interestingly, just recently, the chief exec of ACAS has actually said, dealing with conflict in a business is the biggest thing that businesses need to do. They need to deal with it early, because actually that results in, by not dealing with it early, it actually results in lots of issues later down the line, which ultimately can cost you a lot of money as a business if you end up at an employment tribunal. And I certainly would think that our HR colleagues on the session today would agree that that can certainly happen. So deal with those things as early as possible and really foster that positive company culture, that can-do attitude, and that sense of enjoyment around your business. Constructive and developmental feedback, really, really important, really key. I'm not saying don't address poor performance. I'm not saying that at all. That's a whole different subject. But being constructive about what people are doing well and letting them know how to improve and how to move forward, because that's really, really important. Learning opportunities are a really big one. And this is particularly relevant to Gen Z, so Generation Z and millennials. They really want to learn new skills. They want to learn new things within your organization. And that actually will help you as a business, create more productivity and maximize performance if you're giving them opportunities to learn new things. Having an annual or twice annual team day or event, you can really bring the team together, no matter how small you are. You might be a team of 3, but you can still do that. You can go out for breakfast once a quarter, breakfast, every twice a year or on special occasions. Do something that really does bring the whole team together. A big one, particularly if staff members have got quite repetitive roles. So if they've got sort of like a data entry role or something where they don't necessarily see the end performance for your business, perhaps they don't have a great deal of customer interaction, being really clear with them about the bigger, the part that their role plays in the bigger company picture is really, really important. Been a bit more challenging in the last year to have a clear work-life balance policy. Let's be fair, when we were all working remote, mostly working at home, but having that as part and parcel of what you do within your organisation is really important. So not making it the norm that you call up your team and ask them questions outside work hours, make it the exception. If you've got to call them in an emergency, that's completely understandable. Just don't make it a regular occurrence, because then that really eats into people's time. And the last one, thinking back to those motivational factors, is it about relationships with their colleagues in the business? Foster those good colleague relationships and deal with that conflict when it comes, because that will really, really help those key points. So team engagement really plays a big part of becoming an employer of choice. And if you can really identify at that early recruitment phase, when you start to recruit people, what are those things that really pique their interest? Why do they come to work? Beyond paying the bills, paying for a car, paying for their holidays, what are the things that really get them motivate and get them going? You know, is it about they want to do a good job, they want to receive great feedback? Is it that they want to learn new things, they want to go on and get a promotion? Find out what those things are, because if you can work it within your business, that you're feeding some of those motivators, actually you'll get better performance out of that individual. So if you don't already know, if you're thinking about your team right now and you don't already know, I would really suggest on your next one-to-one, when you have your next one-to-one with your team members or with your clients, if you work on behalf of clients, find out what those key things are, because that would definitely help. So the good news is being an employer of choice is possible. And for me, I really want to say to you all, it doesn't need to cost tens of thousands of pounds. It's not about the big boys. Let's be fair, 97% of our businesses in Kent and Medway are small to medium-sized businesses. This is not about spending, you know, tens of thousands of pounds. With a little bit of thought and planning in a cost-effective way, I really do think that you can become an employer of choice and, you know, really help future-proof business. Now, there's a lot on social media. I won't mention any names about flexible working, flexible hours, and some of our Kent and Medway companies are doing just that and, you know, promoting it really, really widely. And I really take my hat off to them. I really, really do. However, that isn't the only solution. Just having flexible hours isn't the thing that's going to make you an employer of choice. There are so many other things that you need to do. So what I'm going to share with you shortly are some ideas to help you become an employer of choice, really to get your team to want to stay with you, to really get them to want to be with your organisation, and get that new exciting talent that's coming through, that's just leaving college now, just leaving university now, to come and want to join your organisation. You know, that's going to make that recruitment easy for you. You don't have to, you know, roll those adverts out 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times just to get those applications. You know, we're hearing, particularly from the hospitality sector, but it's not just the hospitality sector, that they're finding it really hard to get people. And Kelly was telling me a story a short while ago. You know, pot washers in London, it might have been Kaz actually, Kaz is nodding, sorry, it was Kaz, pot washers in London being paid £17 an hour because they couldn't get pot washers. And some of our, you know, our fabulous restaurants and eateries in Kent and Medway are having to close midweek because they can't get the staff. There was a report, I don't know if any of you saw the report on BBC South East News last night. It's outside of our area, but it's still very relevant. In Sussex, the MasterChef winner has got a couple of restaurants, and he said he was struggling to find the right staff. Now, obviously, they're a higher end restaurant, obviously got a bit of a brand, people have got brand awareness about them, but they're struggling. So what they're doing really are the things that we're talking about today in terms of becoming an employer of choice. So people want to come and work for you. You're not just another business, you know, and it's just another job. And that's really, really important.
If I can, we just had a quick question here in the chat.
Absolutely.
Dale said, we discussed team days just now. Would you recommend them to be on working days or weekends?
It depends on your business. And again, this really, that's why it's important to know your team from the go-get. If they've got a young family and actually getting childcare at the weekend is a real problem, possibly that isn't the right time. And if you want it to be about them having fun and you want them to do it on work time, then clearly weekdays would be appropriate. It's about finding what's right for your business. There is no right or wrong answer, I would say. It was Dale, wasn't it, you said, Molly? Yeah, no right or wrong answer. It's about what's right for your business. It's what's right for your culture as a business. So it might be that you decide to do, you know, drinks and activities after work. You know, that might be appropriate because that's your demographics within your business. But it might be that it's right for your business that it's on certain days because of childcare arrangements or caring responsibilities. Let's be fair, it's not just about childcare, it's also about other people within your family. So finding out what's right for your team, that's what's most important, Dale. Hopefully that answers that question, definitely.
Thank you.
Brilliant. So if we have got some solutions and we can become that employer of choice, we can attract that new and exciting talent, which is really, really important. Hopefully your existing customers want to deal with you. you're doing the right things, you've got the right processes in place, you've got a motivated team. Hopefully new business wants to come and work with you. But also a big thing is that your community, so those other businesses, those other organisations around your location, become your advocates and really start to champion your business. We all know word of mouth, it spreads like wildfire. People tell people. Unfortunately, the negative stuff often goes faster than the positive stuff. But if you are an employer of choice and you're treating people the right way, you're doing all of the right things within your business, people will tell people. And that next rising talent that's coming out of school or college or is looking for, the next job, they then will focus on your type of organisation rather than perhaps one of your competitors who hasn't quite got it right. So this is also about putting you in front of your competitors, to become the business of choice and the employer of choice. So let's have a look distinctly at some things that you can do then. So we've got the team engagement. That's absolutely crucial, whether you're trying to be an employer of choice or not. That's a real crucial fundamental for me in terms of how you set that up within your business. The next points I really, really want to sort of elevate to you today is train your managers. This is a real bugbear of mine, and obviously it's part and parcel of what I do on my day job. But what I want to say to all of you is that 60% of people leave their employment because of their line manager. That is an absolute fact by a recent report from Career Builder. But whatever statistics you look at, when you use good old Google, you will find that somewhere between 55 and 60% of people leave their employment because of their manager. And that is often because their manager just isn't supported to do things the right way. If you can get your managers to treat their team as you want to treat them, engage their team, motivate their team, and really help them with, moving that performance forward in a much more supportive way, people are going to be less likely to leave. Now, let's be fair, there are some we just need to leave our business. They're just not suitable. But those rising stars and those people who really, really want to retain, you want the managers to be trained so they can support them to help that productivity within your business. As it says on the slide, have a team engagement program. That's a real fundamental for me, getting those basics right and having a program where you engage with the team, because that really will create positivity in your business and it filters out. And as I said earlier, people tell people. If you're a great business to work for, they will tell other people without a shadow of a doubt. If you have got people leaving your business, understand why they leave. And if it's necessary, do something about it. Understand that analysis. It might be that they just need to leave the business. That's okay. But if they're leaving for certain reasons that you can do something about it. Don't just sit on it. Understand what millennials and Gen Z need in terms of employment and need from their roles. If you're interested in that Deloitte survey, ping me a message at the end and I can send it out to you. It might be of interest because it does go down into the real deeper levels of what both of those generations need in terms of employment and what their expectations are. But ultimately, to give you the real sort of headlines on that, they want opportunities, they want training, they want the business to be a responsible type of business, and they want to enjoy being at work. They're the real sort of key headlines. And that leads quite nicely into the next point: social responsibility activity. You can do so much with this. So that can also be known as CSR, so corporate social responsibility. In the small business arena, it's very much around social responsibility. We drop the word corporate. Might be known as social value or social impact. What can you do from a charitable status or from a charitable perspective? What can you do within your wider community? And I go back to the point that I made earlier about becoming an employer of choice, not necessarily costing you tens of thousands of pounds. This is about doing some localized activity that really resonate most with your business and with your team. So that might be something like identifying a charity that your team want to support for the year. So having a charity of the year. Again, it doesn't matter how small your business is, you can still do this. Get them to nominate and vote for a charity. Maybe use the activities or the fundraising that you're going to do as part of your team away day. So going back to Dale's point, you know, if it's relevant to the team and they really buy into this, maybe you use these activities as part of your team building, part of your team days. So again, it doesn't need to cost you lots of time, effort, and money as a business, but you're incorporating something that they really enjoy, that they really believe in, that they're really sort of wedded to in terms of, you know, wanting to make a difference. Have those sorts of activities. Maybe involve your suppliers, your customers and your sort of stakeholders and wider community. So thinking about that impact that we have on our wider community and how we want people to talk positively about our business, get them involved as well. The fundraising, you know, total will go up, but also you get some great opportunities then to really, you know, sort of share that information and share that positivity out beyond your business. And the big one, for anybody, for any generation, but particularly millennials and Generation Z, is learning. Have a learning development program. And again, this is not about spending, you know, tens of thousands of pounds. This is about the right training, the right job shadowing, the right experience, the right exposure to the right opportunities within your business. Your staff, generally speaking, want to learn new skills. They want to take on additional responsibilities. Delegate and delegate well to them. That can increase the productivity within your business. You know, that can help them progress through the business, but ultimately it can help you with output, and it can also obviously help you with more income, ultimately more profit. So all of those things would be really, really useful for you to adopt if you made that decision to become an employer of choice. So what would that mean if we did all of this stuff? What would it actually mean to us as a business? Well, in the world of training and coaching, we talk a lot about impact, the impact of our actions, the impact of the training and the coaching that we deliver. It's my belief that staff retention, motivating your team and becoming an employer of choice is absolutely no different. We should be thinking about the impact for our business. So I believe that your business impact, if you were to implement a team engagement program and some of those steps from being an employer of choice, the impact would be you'd have an engaged workforce who are willing to go the extra mile for you. So if we think back to that statistic from CIPD a little earlier, that was 50% of your team are willing to, you know, work harder for you. If they're engaged, they're motivated, they're happy to be with you as a business, they'll go the extra mile for you. So you know that there will be extra things that can be done in your business and your business can progress forward. A team that is retained and motivated is really important. And we know from statistics that they would think twice about leaving your business. So that £3,000 that we mentioned earlier, it wouldn't walk out of your business and you wouldn't need to spend 27.5 days recruiting for the next person. So if they're already motivated and already buying into what it is you're trying to do as a business, that would be hugely beneficial. You have managers that hopefully, if you've trained your managers, that can deal with challenges. They can motivate the team and maximize performance, which is really important, ultimately saving you money and making you more, you know, making you more profit. And you're spending less time dealing with people issues, as some people call them, you know, or staff issues. You're actually leaving that to the managers and you're concentrating on running the business and running your operational side of your job role. A trained and highly effective team generally are motivated, they're highly skilled, and that really can help performance and help productivity. Thinking about the social responsibility in any sort of charity activity that you decide to adopt as a business, it can really leverage good community relations. And again, that goes back to that whole word of mouth, recommendations, positivity. It becomes your own source of PR, your own source of opportunity for others to talk positively about your business. If you do some form of social responsibility activity, or you're particularly successful in retaining and recruiting your team, you get some real opportunities for good news stories. So whether that's case studies for your website, positive PR for your social media channels, whether that's, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, if you're a very visual organization, obviously LinkedIn's a big one, or to put on your website, perhaps even press stories to get out in, you know, in your local area, or perhaps in your industry journals, could really talk about you as a business. But also, if you're involved in sort of bids and tenders, this would be really useful for you to have a bit of a bank and collate information, so you can really demonstrate your impact on your local community. Repeat business and new customers, which absolutely speaks for itself. So without a shadow of a doubt, if you're behaving correctly as an organisation, you're more than likely to get your customers being retained with you, and possibly new customers coming on board. And I think we can probably all remember some of the sort of horror stories of some of the big brands that have got it wrong, and people have sort of moved off to other brands where they don't want to deal with them. I won't quite say that for people like Amazon, because many of us have needed Amazon over the last sort of 18 months, but certainly we think differently about those types of businesses. And that's why I think, particularly during the pandemic, the buy local message and the shop local message was really, really important, particularly here in our area in Kent and Medway, where many of us were saying, you know, go and buy from your local butcher, go and buy from your local farm shop. If you've got one, go to your local high street, rather than just doing, you know, the online click for the world of Amazon, because people wanted to support those local businesses. And if you're behaving correctly as an organisation, chances are other people will want to come and work with your organisation. So ultimately, the impact that you would have a positive ripple effect. Ultimately, for you to become a sustainable and profitable business, if you've implemented all these things, absolutely your business can move forward and your business can progress. But importantly, for the subject that we're talking about today, we can really harness what the millennial generation and what Generation Z are really looking for from an employer. And that ultimately is that they're engaged at work, you know, they're doing well at work, they're getting their training, the business has got great community relations, you know, people around them on their estate or wherever they're located really are happy with those businesses. Those businesses behave really ethically, a word I always struggle to say. You know, they behave really, really well. And you've got some great case studies, you've got some great evidence of you doing it right as a business, and people will want to buy from you. Organisations will want to partner with you. Organisations will want to shout about you. If you're behaving badly, you're not doing all of the right things, absolutely the reverse will certainly be the case. So a question to pose to all of you before we stop the screen share and answer any questions and have a chat, because that's what we really, really want today, to spend some time with you today doing that. I'd like to connect with as many of you as possible. So I've got my email address on there. If you're interested in that Deloitte survey, drop me a line. Really be happy to send that across to you. And I know that Molly's going to pop in the chat box a manager's motivation book that you can sign up for. You won't get any spam. You'll get that sent across to you. And I'm also going to share the checklist from the session today, as well as obviously Molly sending round the recording of this today. So you've got some things to sort of recap. If I'm not already connected with you on LinkedIn, I'd love to connect with you. Yeah, no, thank you for the time today. Thank you for the questions that you've already posed. And yeah, let's go to stop screen share.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Tracy. And it's so nice to hear like all the positivity through the presentation as well. You know, it's so true that you want to be able to go to work and enjoy being there and be in a nice atmosphere. I always like to think that sometimes if I'm letting the team down, I'm not just letting the team down, I'm letting friends down. And I think that's quite a positive mentality to have in the workplace, because then you have that personal aspect of really wanting to work together as well. I've just seen that, excuse me, it's Sanja.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Molly.
Hiya.
Hello. Hi, Tracy. Really nice presentation. Thank you so much for that. I just had a question, and I mean, I do agree with everything you've said. Really, it was really sort of it hits home, especially when you quote those examples. But with a small business, one of the things across, of course, there are businesses who will do everything that you have just spoken about, and they
absolutely
do as a matter of routine. It's just the way they run their business.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But there are some of the businesses who are really good when it comes to what they do. They're very well known, but somehow they still find themselves on that hamster wheel, you know, which a small business owner finds themselves on. These are businesses who also have staff. They've got a nice team going. What is your message to businesses like that? So, for example, we as HR professionals will say, a bit like what you know, some of the examples you quoted, having a team day out, but we will say, okay, at least go out as a business owner, go out with your lunch.
Absolutely.
Do it maybe once a week, or always be very religious and disciplined about ensuring that you and your staff all take your annual leave, your basic entitlement in that particular year. Don't carry it forward. It is such a common thing for them to carry forward. So what is your message really to almost to kind of convert these good brand businesses into doing a lot of the things, the simple things that you spoke about today?
What I would do is I would identify the things that they're most willing to do first, rather than trying to chuck the whole lot at them, because actually it would then become overwhelming and they won't do any. It's like all of us. If we've got 10 things to do and we find those 10 things overwhelming or not particularly of interest, we're not going to do any of them. But find the things that they are willing to do, willing to change, and almost work through it in a step-by-step basis. We can't all change our businesses overnight. You know, we can't all implement everything immediately, but work through the list in the order of priority that's right for your business. This is ultimately about what's right for your business. Dale asked the question about team away days, whether it's the weekend, whether it's not for me to say it's weekends or, you know, weekdays are the right day. It's about what's right for your business. So I identify really that list and work through it over a period of time, because each of the things will become easier. You know, if you were to work through each of those individual things, each one would become easier, and you start to adopt that culture within your organization. It will be a little bit strange at first if you've never done any of this stuff before, but actually definitely. One or two little baby steps or little pigeon steps at a time. A small business owner who's incredibly busy will just be overwhelmed if you try and do it all at once. But I completely agree with you, just to pick up on your point about the lunch, the holidays, they're all really, really important. So
it almost goes down like a lead balloon when you say, no, you've got to take your annual leave the same year. And I say, what? We've never done that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you go back to the statistic from CIPD, and obviously you're a born and bred CIPD professional, 20% of our staff are exhausted and under pressure. They need their holidays. You know, that statistic in itself just backs that up. Absolutely. And if we can get them taking their holidays, we can get them taking their leave and their lunch breaks, because that's the other thing, getting them to take their lunch breaks, not having a culture where everybody sits and eats at their desk and carries on. You know, getting them to take their breaks, getting them to take their entitlements, so that when they're back at their desk or back at their function or operating for you within the business, actually they are firing on all cylinders. They're not tired, they're not slumped in their chairs, they're not slumped at their workstations, their manufacturing lines, whatever type of business it happens to be. Get them to take their breaks. Breaks are there for a reason. Holidays are there for a reason.
Thank you very much.
That's really good. One of the things that we started doing here at the Chamber as well, which has been really lovely for staff morale, on Friday we just take a little half an hour out, and on Teams we join and we just play games. But no one's allowed to talk about work, no one's allowed to talk about emails, anything like that. We just sit there, we have some games online. It's a different game each week, and it's just so lovely just to have a laugh, sort of. Get a bit competitive. And it's been fantastic ways to just sort of bring us together every Friday before the weekend, talk about what we're going to do over the weekend, and keep us all engaged with each other. So I know a lot of businesses that might not be too easy to do, but for some that are able to do that, I'd really recommend as well, because that's been fantastic here with the Chamber.
Yeah, absolutely. You can adopt that. I think that's really, really good practice, and brilliant to hear that the Chamber are doing that. It's about adapting what's right for your business. So that might, as you say, Molly, that might not be right for other businesses, whether it's a team lunch on a Friday, whether it's a get together once a month at a team meeting where you then stop the meeting, you finish the meeting, and you have a round of sandwiches or whatever it happens to be that's right for your business. And everybody just chats about generally what they're up to. It's about fostering those good relationships with their colleagues within the business, fostering those good relationships with their line managers, and perhaps if it's a smaller business and they've got access to the owners of the business, with those owners, they are key motivational factors for our team. They want to have good relations with their colleagues. They want to have good relations with their line manager. Most people don't set out to be a pain in the backside. Most people are there because they want to do a good job for you. You'll soon wheedle out the ones that you need to get rid of, let's be fair. But those that you need to foster and you need to support and grow, they're the ones that we need to focus our energy on, definitely. And all of the things that Sanjay has said definitely are really relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody else have any other questions for Tracy-Anne at all? Mary?
Not a question really, just a comment, just to say thank you very much, Tracy. That was really, really helpful and also true. I think something that some business owners don't appreciate is the fact that their staff could actually be really great salespeople for them. We pay our salespeople to go out and market our businesses, but our staff could actually be doing the job for free. If you think about it, when you go to the pub, you tend to talk about your work. And I mean, I've met some people where I was just networking and they just won't stop talking about their business, and they're not even salespeople. So I'm thinking, if you're promoting your business without even being asked and it's just coming out naturally, it's because that business is a really great place to work in. Absolutely. And if I was looking for a job as an accountant, that's the sort of firm I want to go to. So I think that's just something else that business owners need to bear in mind, that actually
definitely
in that great environment for your people, it's actually a great sales technique.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Mary. And sort of going back to the people tell people. So if you're a great place to work, it was a bit of a term in the industry. It was a bit of a buzzword term a few years ago, creating great places to work. But if you are genuinely an employer of choice, and people love working for you, they encourage other people to come and work for you. As you say, people tell people down the pub, their local restaurant, at the playgroup, when they're out with their friends, they talk about you so positively. We know the reverse will happen, that they can also talk negatively about you. But if you really are fostering that culture of positivity and that can-do attitude, your employees will be your biggest champions. And as you say, Mary, they're your free salespeople, because they're selling you on the sidelines, which is great.
That's great. And Cassie, did you have a question at all?
I did. I just popped on to say thank you for all of that. We're actually so I'm the HR manager here at Kita, and we're actually very lucky. Our leadership team believe in all of those things that you mentioned, and we do probably 95%. I didn't actually write them all down, but all of them I recognised. To the point where all the holidays and lunch, that all comes naturally. We actually have a chef, we provide lunch, so lots of extra things that we do. The difficulty is making sure that people realise those things sometimes, and sometimes they're expected, and we invest in things. We've invested a lot in management training and all the things that you've mentioned, the social side, etc. But sometimes people take it for granted, and then you feel like you have to do more. And similarly, it's not necessarily a retention factor sometimes, because people haven't necessarily worked elsewhere, so don't think that it's unusual. So how do you overcome some of those hurdles?
I would share case studies of other less effective methods or less effective organisations without talking incredibly badly of them. I would share some case studies. I would almost put yourself against other organisations to demonstrate why you are clearly high in that list of being an employer of choice. Because as you say, when people don't have experience of, shall we say, the outside world, it becomes an expectation, as you mentioned. So I would openly share what other people are doing, and how you're either striving to improve yourself, if that was your strategy as a business, but also what the opposite of good, so the poor or the bad side looks like, compared to what you're doing as an organisation. I wouldn't want to be getting into a war of words about those organisations, but sharing some of those examples will give them a bit of a reality. But also the other thing is about showcasing what you do. Do you enter awards and shout about what you do.
Not as much as we should. Even things like on the CSR front, we give to charity every month or every 6 weeks or whatever, but we don't publish that anywhere other than through the accounts and things. So it's really actually quite frustrating that all these things you're listing, I'm thinking we do that, but we just don't tell people we do that.
External validation is really important, particularly when it comes to staff, because if somebody else is judging your organisation to say that you're at that top peak of sort of where you're trying to get to, external verification will go some way towards, not everybody, but a lot of your team then going, all right, okay, it is good here. You know, we have got all the right things, and actually this is the place to work because you know, we won this, or we were recognised for this in terms of achievement, and those sorts of things, definitely. But what you say about CSR is really interesting for me. Lots of organisations do good stuff. They do lots of charity activities. They do lots of volunteering or giving back, but don't often shout about it. Publicise it is my biggest recommendation. Share that information through your newsletters. Share that with your staff, with your external partners. You know, really shout about it. Don't hide your light under a bushel, as the term goes. You know, don't hide that information away, because again, that's you validating what it is that you do for your employees and do as a business.
I'd like to add something, actually, just listening to the point you made, Cassie, and Tracy-Anne's reaction. I faced something a few years ago now. I was managing a team who, as teams tend to do from time to time, take everything for granted. And before too long, what they take for granted, they turn into a moan, and then that moan, you know, spreads like, dare I say, a pandemic through the staff. And something I did that thankfully worked out quite well is I took one of the new members of the team and just had a word in my office and said, you know, how does this compare with companies you've worked for? And she couldn't have been more positive, etc. But she admitted that she didn't like to say too much because she'd seem like the goody-goody, and you know, that would make her unpopular in the team she's trying to embed herself within. So I completely understood that, but I told her what I planned to do, and so she was primed in advance. So we were having a meeting one day, and there were about 12 of them sat round in a horseshoe in the little conference room we were in, and I said, so just out of interest, obviously everyone here's airing some frustrations. As your manager, I have frustrations too, and every business will have frustrations. But just out of curiosity, Julie, you're the newest member of the team. Would you be prepared to say how this company is in comparison to what you've experienced? And it was great. She spoke for about 25 minutes. And without me needing to say a word, everywhere you could see it was dawning on them that actually, yeah, maybe, yeah, okay, I hadn't thought about that. It could be worse. And before too long, what the thoughts of what it could be worse actually changed into, actually, yeah, we're luckier than we realised. And it was all done for me. I just needed to put it into practice. Now, I'm not saying that would work every time, but that was personal experience for me. And it just struck me, Cassie, as you were speaking, I know what that feels like, and it can be very frustrating. And I'm not proud of this, but there were times where I could have grabbed people by the neck and said, for goodness sake, don't you realise how lucky you are? But obviously that's not the approach to take. But I found by engaging a newer member of staff, and she really got it. She understood. I mean, you can put yourself in a dangerous situation. It backfire on me and backfire on her. But on that occasion, it worked, and it worked well. And I thought that might just help to add to what Tracy-Anne had to say there.
Yeah,
thank you.
No, I think that's a really great example, Mark. Thank you. And yeah, though that compare and contrast, whether it's you just showing or demonstrating, or somebody coming in that's got experience of elsewhere, it is always really, really useful, because somebody else is telling it then, or that experience. It's not just you saying, well, come on, just sort yourselves out. It's brilliant here, or it's, you know, it could be worse over there. Yeah. You know, staff always think the grass is greener. They always do. So actually, the more you can embed in your culture, actually, that how we do things around here is great. the more you can just reinforce that message, really, almost subtly, and just continue to develop that. But yeah, challenge it when they start when they start moaning, as you clearly did, Mark. So great opportunity, great positive outcome.
And it would have been, I know what would I was thinking, if I tried to take them on, you know, it would create a situation of conflict and create a even more divisive atmosphere, which was not going to be helpful. So I thought, I need to box clever here, and it was just an idea I came up with, and thankfully it worked on that occasion.
Great, that sounds absolutely brilliant. Well done, definitely.
Can I add to that? Just that comment. I just wanted to go back to what you mentioned, Tracy, about getting to know your employees.
You
mentioned about getting to know their motivators earlier.
Definitely. Yeah.
And so just to that point, you mentioned, Cassie, it might be that maybe that's where there's a gap between what they really care about and what you're actually giving them. So, I mean, we use the DISC. I don't know if you're familiar with DISC. We use DISC a lot. And that really helps you to really get to know what matters to them and what their motivators are. So that might, I'm not saying that will solve the problem, but it might just be there's a gap between what really motivates them and what you consider should be motivating them, but it's not, they're not appreciating it.
Sorry to interrupt, we do employee surveys and things like that. So, and we've got quite a robust recruitment process, which captures both of that. I guess it's just perhaps we could add a little bit more to that. I'm not familiar with DISC, so I'll look into that.
It's sort of really exploring perhaps in a bit more depth as to, you know, what motivates them at work. So you've got all these wonderful procedures and programs for engaging them and working across the business, but actually there might be one or two other things that you could implement instead of that actually might pick their interest a bit more. So yeah, maybe try and explore that a little bit, maybe through your staff surveys. That might be a great starting point. Okay. But no, brilliant point. Thank you, Mary. Really, really great.
And apologise for dipping out there, Tracy, because I really wanted to come and listen to you all the way through it. But on this subject, in the previous life, when I used to work for a larger corporate company, they never used to emphasise the good parts of what was going in the company. We used to have these big staff meetings, and it never came across. And I just had to stand up and say to them, "You said one nice thing, but there's loads of things that you do, but you don't tell the staff." So it's definitely a good thing to get the good stuff out there when you're having these big staff meetings, and to find out what people were feeling. They used to do a lot of Survey Monkey. They used to send out little things and do lots of surveys, and that would make them understand what people are expecting and what they want. And you know, so good. It is good to push the good stuff forward in the meeting with your staff. Yeah,
definitely. Thank you, Mark. Brilliant.
I think, unless anybody's got anything else that they would like to add.
Lucy's got a comment. I'm just going to quickly pick up on Lucy's got. Lucy, thank you, Lucy. The Gallup 12 survey is a great way to see how your teams are feeling. It can be run on Survey Monkey at no cost. Fantastic. We like things like that, solutions that are not going to cost us, you know, mega money in our businesses. Thank you, Lucy. That's great.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you, Tracy-Anne, for today. That's been lovely conversations we've had as well. And lovely to see everyone nodding along and getting involved in sort of reflecting on their own organisation. So some brilliant conversations there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, the Chamber. And thank you all for today. And onwards and upwards for the rest of your day and the rest of your week. And see you all again soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And hopefully see you.
Thanks, everyone.